Okay, just started.
All right, we're ready to begin, Mrs. Stutzman.
All right, wonderful. So I'm calling the curriculum meeting to order for today. It's January 25th. I am the new chair of the curriculum committee. Kathy DiMarino is our vice chair, and then our other two members of the committee are Dr. John Melnizek and Paul Friel. So as Jennifer said in our previous meetings, if we make sure if we're on the committee, our cameras are on. If we're not, cameras are off, so that it's easier for the public to understand who's part of the committee. We're going to miss that when we're all back in person. That'll be the one thing I think that'll be interesting about this. So today's agenda really is focused on one main topic, and that's our elementary plan. If you remember that at our last committee of the whole meeting, in the beginning of January, we chose to move both the high school and middle school plans forward to the full board, but we'd asked for administration to come back to this committee meeting with additional thoughts and options for elementary. So that's what we're here to talk about tonight. So with that, I believe I'm handing it to Dr. Lloyd.
Thank you, Mrs. Stutzman. At the board meeting, we did ask for our special education supervisors to comment on bringing our low incident populations in for 5 days a week. So at this time, I would invite Mrs. Burke, Mr. Ball, and Mr. Milnes to turn on your camera and talk about your plans for bringing our students that are considered low incident population in 5 days a week. So how about we will start with Mrs. Burke at the elementary. Please, I know that we have some, the board, I did email all of you the plan that they're going to be presenting here tonight. There are some common areas, and so Mrs. Burke, if you would just highlight the areas that are common for all three levels, which is communication and supports, if you would include that, and then each of our curriculum supervisors will talk about their particular area.
Right. Good evening. For all three programs, we will begin family notification for eligible students tomorrow. That will be critical for transportation because they will need a list of the students that are opting for this additional day. Food service will also be provided a list of the students that will be attending so they can appropriately plan for staffing to provide breakfast and or lunch as needed in the buildings. Parents who are opting to remain virtual on Wednesdays will be offered additional synchronous opportunities for their students, as will our students in those programs that have already chosen full cyber instruction. I think the last common piece we had was any related service providers will also be notified of the students that are coming in if they would like to switch the days that they currently see those students in order to open up times elsewhere in the week. For the elementary plan, it is for the classrooms, the autistic support classrooms at French Creek and West Vincent, as well as the life skill support classrooms at French Creek. Those students would attend for a full day. So we are planning for a typical school day. And in working with Dr. McKillop and Mr. Smith, we are building a schedule to utilize the building paraprofessional subs as well as the building teacher subs to provide coverage for our teachers so they can continue to attend the collaborative planning meetings that the grade levels are holding, as well as any IEP meetings or the whole faculty study group meeting that typically or right now occur on Wednesday. Our students will continue to participate in whatever general education classroom activities are occurring, morning meeting, any small group that is happening, as well as any asynchronous or accelerate work that has been assigned. They'll provided time and support in order to complete those activities. Jeff, did you want to talk about middle school?
Sure. Good evening. I'll go and talk about middle school. You'll find that it's going to be similar. We tried, Joe and I tried to kind of align the two because they'll be going from the same time. So the middle school will run from 7:30 to 10:50. We're going to do a half day. The plan will be to bring all the students in Currently, all the students that we are inviting back are attending 4 days. So we do anticipate that they'll come for the 5 days, which will be great for them. We have several students included in this that are in general education as well. We are going to utilize our paraprofessionals temporarily so that every student will have a one-on-one during this time. So the students that are in the general ed program will be working with a one-on-one in their asynchronous work for the day. And they can also provide supports for anything that they need clarification from maybe Monday or Tuesday as well. The other students will remain with their caseload teachers to work on their IEP goals, social skills, any other needs they have at that time. The teacher already, the caseload teacher already has lessons ready to go for the students for the rest of the day when they arrive home to reinforce what they were taught that day. So their day won't necessarily end at 10:50. The learning will continue when they get home with lessons to add on to what they've been taught that day or previous days. And at this point, we don't necessarily anticipate that this is going to impact their educational placement. So we don't necessarily see this impacting their IEPs at all because we've already programmed and thought about, language in the IEPs for that. So we're really excited to get everybody back for 5 days right now.
I want to, before you go, Mr. Milnes, I'm going to clarify one thing that Dr. Ball said, because remember, we're starting the first week of February to bring in this targeted population of students. And so that will be before the middle school moves to half day. So for the time being, they have between now and when we are in the moderate range, till we get to that moderate range for 3 weeks, what they're describing is sort of bridging us to getting to that point. Mr. Milnes, high school.
Sure, thank you very much. As Dr. Ball just explained, the high school program is actually going to be identical, with the only exception is we are going to invite any of the students who either choose to remain virtual for that Wednesday or select not to come in. So for example, we have, I think, 5 to 7 students who are virtual right now the entire time. They're not coming in at all. So we are going to invite all of those students, as well as any other students who select not to take advantage of this opportunity, to participate in the synchronous learning in the morning. So instead of it being an asynchronous day, typically, we're going to invite them to be part of the classroom activities that'll be taking place in that morning, in that half day from 7:30 to 10:50. Other than that, like Jeff pointed out earlier, he and I worked and coordinated our schedules so that everything would be as aligned as possible to help mitigate any issues with transportation or para-educator support, related service providers. It's a little bit of coordination because most of those staff members are all have been accustomed to delivering their services via teletherapy or telesupport up until this point, or video support. So bringing them back into the building takes a little bit of coordination.
Mr. Milnes, how many high school students are you expecting?
I think we're expecting 12 of the 19 to join us. 12 of the 19 students who qualify, we are thinking that 12 of them are going to join us on that Wednesday, which would be, as Jeff pointed out, it would represent all of the students who are going 4 days a week right now, and perhaps 1 or 2 that are going 2 days a week.
And Dr. Ball, how many is that at middle school that you expect will come?
Right now, we're anticipating 5 students to come 5 days.
And Mrs. Burke at the elementary level?
At West Vincent, there's 12 that are eligible, and at French Creek, 34. We don't anticipate all of them taking advantage of it, but a good majority will.
Questions for our special ed supervisors?
I just had a question about the middle school. Sorry, I'm just going back through this agenda. You were saying that you would be using substitutes to help the teachers get to meetings and things like that. Is that correct? So I'm scribbling madly and trying to get this right. My
No.
question is just how many substitutes are we needing to
So
cover?
I don't
teachers?
anticipate using substitutes. What we're going to do is we're going to reallocate some of our paraprofessionals.
Paraprofessionals.
Yeah.
And do you think that that's going to be extensive, or do you feel like that's workable?
No, I feel like it's so we have a couple people right now. For example, we have maybe a library per person that's working in the library right now. We'll reallocate on that Wednesday while all the students aren't back to work one-on-one with students. We also have a couple other paraprofessionals that we can have available in the room. Obviously, it can be temporary until all students return. Yeah, but we don't anticipate using any substitutes or any additional resources.
Yeah, actually, then that was I guess the elementary was talked about using substitutes. Is that correct then?
Yes.
And then, so I'm looking at French Creek with 34 students is possible. Is that, you know, are we going to have substitutes available, enough substitutes available to make sure all those teachers are able to get to their meetings and things and cover that?
Dr. McKillop and I are actually in the midst of building what the overall schedule will look like. And between lunches and recess that take place over some of those meetings, we don't anticipate it being a problem.
Okay, great. Great.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks for putting that together so quickly for the board also.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, so moving on to the really the main agenda item tonight. Back on January the 4th, and this is for the benefit of people that may not have attended those meetings. So in November and then again on January the 4th, I presented plans for increasing in-person learning at all levels. The board had requested that we present plans for doing that. At the January 4th meeting, the board moved on the middle school plan and the high school plan, and that was voted on and approved on the 19th. And so the board asked that I return tonight to present another plan, something that was different than what we had presented back on January the 4th. And so I don't have a formal presentation for you tonight, because my recommendation would be that we simply stay the course and that we continue to do what we are doing. You've heard elementary principals talk about various ways that they have been increasing the amount of synchronous learning for students. And so I would recommend that until the health department relaxes the guidelines of 6 feet of physical distance, that we would stay the course. I don't anticipate the health department relaxing those guidelines until after the education community has been able to be vaccinated. And so my recommendation is that we continue to do what we are doing.
Susan, on that point, with the synchronous in elementary, can you just remind us, is it 3 days that the kids are doing their work with the Accelerate program, and 2 days that they're doing sort of like the teacher-led stuff? And then
right, so elementary students are in 2 groups. There's the A group and the B group, and students attend in person 2 days. And then they are fully synchronous. Well, I shouldn't even say fully synchronous. Wednesdays is the asynchronous day. And so there's some small group instruction that goes on those days. Then there's 2 days where they are at home and they join their morning meeting in our upper grades, our 5th and 6th grade. So there's opportunities for them to join other times through the day. And then there's small group reading and math instruction that goes on all throughout the week, whether you're home or whether you're in person.
Okay. And in some of the other districts, in terms of, I've seen like, K through 2, K through 3, as we think about after the community's vaccinated, the educator, I'll ask for an update on that if you've heard anything from Chester County. But is there any thought about, would we be able to maybe phase in, or what do you think your approach is going to be in bringing kids back into more in-person learning, whether it be 5 days as possible, or are we going to start with the younger guys first, or have we thought about it yet?
And so I don't think that we need to phase in, Mr. Friel, because the students that are coming in person are already coming in person. They just come 2 days a week. And so we would start on a Monday and students would just arrive and start school like they always do. So I don't think we need to phase in like we did at the beginning of the year, or actually it wasn't even the beginning of the year, it was October when it was new. And the students they didn't have the opportunity to visit the buildings. They just had to get off the bus and arrive. So I don't think we would need to phase in. And so as far as the vaccine goes, I sent an impassioned plea to the board and to all of the employees of the school district to contact their local legislator. We were hopeful that the education community was going to be able to be vaccinated starting the 30th of January. And now Chester County has said that's not the case. And so they don't know, they're not receiving enough vaccine to follow through on that. Our nurses have been able to be vaccinated, thankfully, under the first wave, but there's no word on when teachers in Chester County will be able to, or any employees in a school district for that matter.
I have to admit, I'm really concerned about this plan because, and the thing that comes to my mind, and I'm sure it's come to everyone's mind, is that if in the moderate range pops up and our high schoolers are suddenly back to 4 days, and yet our elementary and young children who are struggling and falling behind and trying to learn how to read are still, there's no plan to do anything for them. I'm just not happy with that. And so I am really not wanting to just let this go to this status quo. I know that's your recommendation, but I am wondering a few things. Like, for an example, you told us that the principals were concerned about a half day being troubling to young families. But since now the choice is a half day or no day, I'm wondering if families have been contacted to see if they want a half day.
We have not surveyed parents. And so that's something that we can do. We can survey parents to find out if they would be willing for their child to come a half day on Wednesday on the rotating schedule. At the same time, we could survey parents whether they would want the 6 feet relaxed, if they would be willing to send their children to school if the 6 feet were relaxed. Because remember, when we told parents that we were going to be in person, we told them we would be in person with 6 feet, to the maximum extent feasible. And for the most part, we're able to honor that. Not everywhere, it's not 100%, but for the most part, we are able to. So
Just
we
to
could
follow up
survey
on
parents.
Dean Marino's question, as you alternatives to the current situation where you talk about a half day Wednesday, what about the AB where we can get a full day in on Wednesday for one, and then the following week the other B students get the full day Wednesday? Is that easier, more difficult? I just get concerned about half days and 17 minutes or 15-minute classes. Do they really get us much teacher time, or would we be better served with the full day every other week and something like that? So I didn't know if you guys had thoughts on that or logistical concerns about that.
We didn't, I put up what the original proposal was on January the 4th and November and in January the 4th. So I just put that up for the benefit of people who are not familiar with that. And so we did not entertain the half day option. We know the pushback that we get from parents when we have a half day and how difficult that is with childcare. And so we didn't explore the half day option. for parents. What you're describing, Mr. Friel, is what I presented in November and on January the 4th, and the board did not seem interested in moving that plan forward.
Well, I'm sorry, Dr. Lloyd, can you just say the board was not interested in moving that plan forward? Is that what you just said? So
The committee didn't move this plan forward to be
Right.
voted on by the board.
Now, so as I understand the problem here, I see that, principals are concerned about the disruption of having a half day. Yet if you went to a full day, the teachers who are needing to have extra preparation time would be losing that time. So I'm wondering if there's a possibility of considering this plan again with some supports in place to give teachers additional preparation time than what they have now. I know that this is a stretch for everybody, but I feel like our scores and our data has shown us that everyone is suffering. And so I'm just desperately trying to find some sort of compromise so that students can get what they need and teachers can get what they need too. And I don't know how to do that, but I personally am struggling with this whole status quo idea as being the best idea.
So could I ask, I don't know if this is, and Dr. Lloyd, please let me know what you think about this, but if we know that we have at least a month before we're even talking about implementing a plan like this, right? Would it be too much time in between and not allow for adequate planning time if we, I feel like we'll probably get greater direction soon, hopefully. We'll have better idea of what's happening with vaccinations. And it might also allow us to get some February data under our belts to take another look at, like, are we, now that we've been in this, are we seeing any improvement or not? Or is it still going the way it has been, and which would make us act even more quickly about maybe doing something like this plan? I'm just looking for the best scenario from what you would recommend as far as, like, how do we not just pause, but still allow ourselves to plan for what's our most likely scenarios? That was a loaded question, I know, but. And I also I think we're maxed with subs at the elementaries, right? So I'm not sure we would be able to turn around something like, I think what you said, Kathy, is spot on, but I'm not sure that's even feasible right now, is it?
We don't have enough subs most days. So we employ a small army of substitute teachers. That's for sure. So we are able to provide substitutes for our special education teachers for our low incident students, but we wouldn't be able to do that on such a large scale as this.
So the recommendation is kind of push pause. Let's see if the interventions here work, and revisit once we have some more data. And then hopefully maybe have some more insight into the vaccination schedule in February. Is that your recommendation?
Whether it's February or March, I will keep the committee updated as to where we are with that. My recommendation is that we don't increase the amount of in-person learning for elementary students until the health department has relaxed the 5 feet. I don't anticipate that occurring until after the education community has been able to be vaccinated.
Okay.
And
Well,
when are the January test scores coming out? Just so we can get a little bit of a insight.
So they were due on Monday, and so we will have those for you in a couple of weeks to be able to show you. I don't know whether you want them formally presented, but we will certainly include them in board line for you. I know you're anxious to see
Yes.
if the interventions that we have talked about are making a difference for students.
Right. I said February data. I meant the January data coming out in
I
February.
knew what you meant.
Thank you.
I knew what you meant.
So
I-
I think I would kind of agree with this. I think, you know, we've put a lot of interventions into place in the elementary school, and I really am curious to see what the January data comes out with. I know that substitutes are at a max, and I don't know what else we can do here to provide support to our teachers from the elementary perspective. And there is no additional planning time really for them to kind of pivot and make this work. I really want to see the data and see, you know, understand what, you know, has been working from the elementary levels. And then my hope is we revisit this in a couple weeks and see, you know, if things have changed, if, you know, the health department does give you any, you know, guidance on when they plan on relaxing this. You know, I'm not going to give up on elementary, but I think we just don't have a solid plan for how to make this work yet.
I would too like to just, like I said, have some sort of information about parents who would be interested in a half day. Because as you said, this is weeks and weeks away. This is not anything that we would need to be doing soon. And if we're assuming that a half day is a bad plan because parents don't want it, but yet we don't have that information, I think that would be a good thing to at least know and know how many parents that would involve. And also I'm wondering about, is there any possibility to extend 4 days to students who are very behind, but maybe do not have an IEP? Is there some way that could, so students who are really struggling, especially like little first graders, second graders, is there a way to consider allowing more people to be involved in that 4-day program?
So we have a criteria for that, whether you want to call it MTSS, whether you want to call it Tier 3 interventions. Different school districts call it different things. And so our instructional support teachers have criteria that they're working with students and inviting students who meet that criteria. They're not a student that is qualified for special ed, but they are struggling or they are in the process of being evaluated for special education services. So we have a set criteria for that because there's many students that are struggling right now. And so there has to be a way for that to be equitable and to be fair. And so that criteria exists at all levels in the district so that we can keep trying to support students where they are with what they need.
Have more students been moved into the 4-day as a result of that new
Yes.
evaluation?
Yes.
Okay. Is there still room for more additional?
It depends class to class, because remember, in an elementary school, it's different than the middle and the high school. The cyber teachers are separate and the elementary teachers are only in person. All of their students, only half their students can come in at a time. And so if we're already at 6 feet in a class and all of the seats are filled, that's why I say it's case by case. Sometimes it's not in the best interest to move the student to a whole different teacher. It's better for them to stay with that teacher.
Well, speaking of this, I think, listen, it makes sense. This is super difficult, and we understand it's almost impossible to get this right. So I feel for all the teachers, all the staff, everybody here. You've done a great job answering our questions. But knowing we have the behind, I think one of the discussions we had at the last board meeting, and just from a curriculum point of view, planning for the summer and extending ESY, I guess the question is, what can we do, knowing we're going to have kids ending the traditional school year behind, to enhance summer programming and to give parents an option for summer and maybe anticipate more people taking advantage of it, assuming the vaccinations get out there and we have some flexibility to do that. What can we do to support you guys, and what are our options?
So next Monday, Dr. Soter will be presenting on ESY and then the summer programming or summer school that we will be offering for students. If we can get back, to in-person, some school districts are offering after school tutoring programs with their CARES Act dollars that they've received. And so that's a possibility if the students that need to be in those programs are able to attend those programs. So she'll be presenting on that next Monday night for everybody.
Great.
Additionally, I'm just thinking that I don't want to just completely let this go, like, not that we're letting it go, but as far as bringing up all the information that we get when we get the data points and when we get more information from the health department to revisit the conversation, because those things may impact what we do in a big way, and it may end up that we don't even miss out on any of these dates because of the fact that we're still waiting to even be in the moderate range at all. So it may turn out different. As I said before, I just really don't want to come to a point where it's the end of March or something and our high schoolers are there 4 days and we haven't been able to do anything for our youngest students. I feel like we need to get creative then and just think outside the box and try to find another solution, even if it's inconvenient. But I would hate to see those youngest students get further and further behind. And then, so anyway, I would like to see that data, as we said, and see if we really need to come with a more aggressive emergency plan or not.
One of the things that has occurred is that the Chester County Health Department, in conjunction with the Chester County Intermediate Unit, has applied to PDE and the Pennsylvania Department of Health to be relieved of the attestation plan. Montgomery County and Bucks County, those counties those districts do not have to comply with an attestation plan because the Pennsylvania Department of Health has agreed to the plan that their health department is following, which is the plan that we were following before that attestation plan went into place. The benefit of that is that it follows the science, and we would be doing what we were doing before, which is contact tracing and quarantining, not closing the whole school because you've reached a certain number of cases over a 14-day period. That will help to provide more in-person instruction, because as you know, we had a flurry of school closures because we reached those numbers. We clean those classrooms thoroughly the minute that we're aware that there's a case in them. So to clean those classrooms 14 days later, when we've suddenly hit a magic number, has nothing to do with science. So I don't know if it'll be accepted. We'll find out. That will help to keep us from closing our schools every time we reach 4 or 6 cases. I know that's not exactly what you're looking for, but it is more face-to-face time for schools.
And Dr. Lloyd, I know that you meet with, the health department and you have all these discussions all the time. And you also do talk to other superintendents in our county. But I'm curious about your view of the fact that we have neighboring districts who are just simply not in Chester County who have their kids in 5 days. And here we are kind of stuck with this very strict, pattern to here. And the kids are not, we're not even talking about bringing them in at all right now, the younger ones.
Aren't those same schools that are open 5 days? Don't they have a lot of closures? Like, aren't they continuous?
I don't know that they have any more than we do. I mean, it could be the same, but if you're in 5 days and then you're closed, it's a lot different than if you're only in 2 days and then you're closed, as far as just, the amount of instruction you get. I don't have the details of that either, though. I don't know. You could be right.
And so, some of those school districts have essentially said to their parents, we're open 5 days, but we are not guaranteeing you 6 feet of physical distance between desks or on the bus, where Chester County schools have said we're open with the 6 feet of physical distance, which is what the Chester County Health Department and the Pennsylvania Department of Health, their guidelines. But we chose very early on in this process to adhere to the guidelines because that is what we believe to be safest for everyone. And so those school districts are not doing that. And I don't know if our parents would want to give up that 6 feet. I know that our staff doesn't want to give up the 6 feet. That, that's a mitigation strategy that we very successfully been using throughout this whole process. I do know that 2 of our neighboring school districts, not in our county, because in our county, the public schools are adhering to the 6 feet. But I do know that 2 of our neighboring school districts in Montgomery County have just been closed for 14 days because they now have link transmission. So that's the trade-off.
Yeah.
Particularly
Yeah,
right now when we're in such a high range.
I wouldn't get behind not following the guidelines at all. I do want to be able to get our kids into classrooms 5 days, but not at the cost of putting their health at risk. And I know trust me, I know, but I'm saying, I don't think I can get behind that. And we're seeing it in those neighboring districts because they're having a lot more cases. They're closing a lot more days because they're not adhering to those guidelines.
Yeah, my nephews are in a district close over in Berks County, and they're closed all the time, even though they're supposedly 5 days. The interruption's been dramatic. So I don't know that they're any better off than we are. I think we're all kind of in the same boat here, just at the mercy of what we got going on. The final question I have for this is around on a curriculum agenda. It might be for you, Dr. Soder, is I know we were allowed to get a lot of different software and some of these books that we've sort of accelerated into the e-learning curve. Given that this might stick around and the vaccines might not get distributed through the population quickly, should we be looking at accelerating our move to some of these more robust online tools and e-learning books as part of our, instead of that 3-year cycle? Are things that you would recommend we just try to or look at accelerating so we have more at home and online resources for kids?
Great question. Some of the resources that we're currently using were for more than 1 year. So for example, you might recall that the board approved the Discovery Education tech book. And that's a multi-year license that we now have for social studies. We have some new digital resources that we're using in mathematics. We have some new resources that were approved last month for science. So some of those are things that are ongoing, and it is something that we continuously look at. Software is on a different purchase cycle, if you will, from a full curriculum revision. So that's an ongoing task for our department.
Okay. Well, yeah, I would support any type of acceleration in that area if it's going to be beneficial for having more robust online versus the textbooks. So
Sure.
Look forward for more of that. All right.
Mrs. Stutzman, did you want to open it up for comments from other board members?
Yes, we're all good so far. I mean, I know it's.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Do it.
So anybody else on the board have any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I'll comment. It's John. I'm deeply disappointed. I feel like we're letting down our families. We can hope that the data gets better. To me, hope is not a plan, right? So essentially what I'm hearing tonight is that 3 weeks in moderate with the relaxing of the 6 feet means we're back in full 5 days a week in elementary. Is that what I heard?
No, Mr. Deal. What you heard is that there's no change for elementary, that we would stay the course with elementary.
So what do we do? What do we do when they do relax the 5 days? Does it take us 2 months to decide that it's safe to send the kids back 5
You
days?
mean
a week?
6 feet, Mr. Deal.
6
correct?
feet. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
6 feet.
I think if they relax the 6 feet, we come back and we
That's my
rejoin.
question.
Yes.
Isn't that our plan?
Yeah.
That's my recommendation, is that we would then revisit it once they relax the 6 feet. Once the health department relaxed the 6 feet.
Okay,
I
so
don't
3 weeks,
anticipate that.
3 weeks in moderate and health department comes off the 6 feet. We're in
Yeah,
5
and I
days
guess
a week.
They're not, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Like one can happen without the other.
Oh, yeah, I would think that we'd get to moderate before they relax the 6 feet for sure.
And I don't think we'll see it unless the education community can be vaccinated.
Right.
No.
I think that's the big thing, John, is the vaccination schedule is a big unknown. If that community, if all our teachers get vaccinated, I think it's a different decision 5-day versus if not.
I think that the health,
It's also
I think
that
the
there's,
health, oh,
go
sorry,
ahead,
John.
Susan, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that the health department views that as another level of mitigation is the vaccine. And that's when we could possibly see it.
I'm just wondering about the impact of 2 days a week in school for those elementary kids through the end of the school year. I don't know how you ever make that up. That's
Well,
all.
and I also think that, like what John is saying too, is that if we are in the position where the 6 feet are relaxed, we don't want to have to wait 3 weeks to do something. It would be nice to have a plan ready to go to bring everybody back in the minute that happens, either because of vaccination or because the transmission rate has really dropped suddenly.
I think we really need to have a plan for 5-day and how we get to that point for all grade levels. For, just something to start planning. Elementary, obviously, more immediate. As we've got all these plans of how to pull kids out of the schools, we've got to have more plans of how to get them back in.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, the 5-day, I think we're all in agreement there. As soon as we can get back, we go back to normal schedule. So yeah, I don't disagree with you guys on that.
And that's not something that we would need to wait or to vote on.
It's in our plan already, isn't it?
Right, it's
I mean,
already in.
we have a plan for that. We just have
It's
to-
already in our plan, because the plan, remember, is written based on the health department guidelines.
Right.
Except
We just
the
need
health
our
department.
community transmission to be low enough, and then we can start to come back.
I guess I'm
But
just
that,
going to stagger this at all. Like, would
sorry,
you,
what?
do you have everyone come in all at once, or would you stagger it? How would you?
Right, I don't think we need to stagger, because the only students that would be coming back in person are students that are already coming in person. So we wouldn't be opening the floodgates. That's a very important piece of that, is that, and I presented on those dates before, when students that are in cyber can come back to in-person, we would still need to hold those dates, because that's where I see the transition being, in adding more students that have not been here in person. Because you've all toured the schools and you've seen what the cafeterias look like, and we don't even have all the desks in the schools in order to make enough room for students. So that's where I see the transition occurring.
I was just going to say, though, that health and safety plan doesn't say anything about a vaccine. So for just an example, if we have our staff vaccinated, yet community transmission is still like in the moderate or whatever, because people outside of the school have still not been vaccinated, but teachers have, do we have a plan for allowing kids to come to school? Even
Only if they relax the 6 feet.
Which they might
Would
do.
still
So
not be
I guess the point is we should have 2 plans, and they're all what if scenarios. But if the standards are relaxed for the 6 feet, what opportunistically can we do and how quickly can we do it to get kids back in 5 days? And then the second criteria that would be, if we are able to relax the 6 feet and bring kids back in, the high school and the middle school, because they're all programmed in, it's going to be other than logistically with the equipment, it's going to be able to be turning a switch on to go back 5 days. The elementary school, because we have a cyber only teacher set and in person only, it's a more complicated piece. So maybe we should have a plan it's totally a what if plan. If A happens or B happens, this is how we would, and it would take us this long to, move to, 5-day in person for the little guys, that the ones that are already in there. And then on the cyber, this is how that could how we could open up the Cyber Academy kids to be able to come back in, and what do those circumstances look like. So maybe that's something we could put together.
We can move quicker on elementary than we can on middle school and high school because of the number of students in cyber. And so you remember that right now we've got 39% of our middle school in cyber, which is why you think that they can come a half day on Wednesday. And we've got 59% of our high school students in cyber, which is why Wednesday is still asynchronous, to be able to support over half the population being in cyber. So you're right, Paul, that the two go hand in hand. The more cyber students that can come back in, the less time there will be for asynchronous.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if health department, I guess one plan segment, if health department relaxes 6 feet and we have our teachers vaccinated, what are our options that the board could then say, yes, let's do this? And what is the timing of those options? I guess scenario planning is kind of what I'm alluding to.
Okay.
And that's my point, Paul. I guess my question is, let's say test scores got markedly worse. Surely we all hope they get better, but essentially it really doesn't matter, right? Because we just said we've exhausted all options and there is no other option until we get to 5-day, right?
Yes.
Good
Right.
enough.
There might be 2 versions of 5-day, if I heard you correctly. One with cyber remaining a cyber, and then there might be an opportunity then to bring cyber back in a second step. So it might be a 2-step
Right.
process. All right.
But nothing in between is what his point is.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So as I keep saying over and over again, if those test scores do look markedly worse, or, especially for the youngest students, I really want to reopen this discussion and see, because I understand we can't relax the 6 feet. I get that. I understand we can't just put everybody in there 5 days, but I think that we might need to be a little more creative in finding solutions for the kids who are struggling and their families.
Continue having the conversation. Is there other creative ways to do this? I fully support that, and regardless of what the test scores say, I think we should continue to keep looking at this. I don't know that we've exhausted.
Nope, I'm having trouble hearing Leslie.
Yes, Mrs. Prophet's having internet. She
just
texted me
disappeared.
she texted me to say she is having internet difficulties.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear
Now
you.
I can.
There's just a lag.
I'm on my hotspot because my phone hotspot, 'cause my internet crashed, and this is why I go to the school, because I can't do this remote.
Yeah.
So what I was saying is I would like us to keep looking at this, because I don't know that we've exhausted all resources. Even as the data comes out, I think it's still something that we should continue to look at to see if there are other creative solutions here. And maybe that's at a building level. Maybe there's creative solutions at a building level, but I just think that, we've gotten a little more creative with doing more synchronous work for the upper grades. What can we do for those lower grades?
Yeah, and including with any after school programs that we could add in as options for parents, with the tutoring stuff. And then just, as I said, I do think in that one action item out of here is, I think we're going to continue to have this discussion every time we meet, but also let's do some scenarios planning with the specific 5-day scenarios, and what are those likely triggers, knowing that we're not committing to anything. It's just, there are some likely triggers of the vaccinations and the relaxing of the 6 feet. Here's the options that would provide, and what that timeline, just so we are aware of what that would look like and what decisions we'd have to make based on that. And again, to Leslie and everybody else's point, if there's after school, if there's other resources, and let's just continue to have the conversation as we go.
Yeah, I think we really have to think out of the box. Some of the things that I thought of is, is it possible to start school early, just for a review session to get our kids caught up? I'm not sure if that's possible. I'm just saying, I'm just thinking out of the box. Another scenario I thought of is, it seems like our cyber teachers are in their own classrooms teaching cyber, but there's no kids in the classrooms, at least the ones that I observed. Is there a chance to move those cyber teachers to one area and be able to utilize those classrooms for students who are not doing so well, and use either student volunteers or substitutes to help those students in the school, physically in the school, to help them get caught up? And the other thing I thought of is, have we looked at, for modified schedules, what is the best case scenario? Meaning that, are there modified schedules in other school districts that they may be doing bad, but not as bad, right? Because by now, there are a lot of school districts that have different types of modified schedules. So are some modified schedules better than others, right? It's one of the things that we can look at. So, Leslie, we have to continue to, like you said, continue to think out of the box on this, right? So if we bring in kids for a day, can we use other facilities other than their school? Maybe, right? So we'll continue to think out of the box and try to come up with a good solution. That's all.
Any other comments or questions from the board before I take some public comments? Okay, I don't know who's controlling tonight, but
I am.
do we have public comments? If so, please use the raise hand function.
Do you want to set a time limit? It's 8:14 now. How long you would take public comment?
I think a half an hour. What do you guys think about that as far as a time? I feel like we've been talking about this for a very long time.
Unless someone has some really good ideas.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unless you have really good ideas, and raise your hand like twice so that we.
Or you own a staffing company for substitute teachers, which
Yeah, that too.
All right.
So please.
Okay, so the first question is from Erin Marsalis. Go ahead and unmute, Erin.
Hi, Erin Marsalis, North Coventry Township. I just wanted to have you guys think about the time when the high schoolers are going to school 4 days a week and the elementary school is not. Sorry, my computer's going to make a loud noise here for mindfulness bell. I apologize. Anyway, when our elementary kids are not, the position that we're putting families in to have kids possibly miss out on their own 4 day a week in person for high schoolers because they have to be responsible for their younger siblings at home while parents are working. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. The next hand raised is Warren Hampton.
Hi, it's actually Heather McCreary on Warren's computer from East Coventry. I think you guys really have to try to do better for the people in this district that want to be in school. Just keeping the status quo when the current scientific literature coming out from the other places says kids need to be in school, and you're not changing anything. We have heated discussions in the community forums, and we come up with things like, look around the other schools, see what they're doing. Unionville has all their kids coming in every day, half a day. Please try something else for these kids. I don't have a kid in this school right now, as we all know, but I am disgusted by this. The comments that I hear from you guys are, it's the teachers. We can't do anything else for our teachers, but what about the kids? You guys are going to lose kids. Mrs. Booth said this at the last meeting. How are you going to get these kids back? What are you going to do? Making kids go to school in the summertime is not a solution. Who is going to do that? Who is paying for that? Please, you guys, try to come up with a better solution.
Thank you, Heather. Lisa S. is next.
Hi, this is Lisa Stevenson from East Coventry Township.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, just want to apologize. First of all, I'm just tuning in from a parking lot of a soccer practice, so I haven't heard all of the discussion tonight. But I just wanted to, again, advocate for trying to find some way around 3 asynchronous days for elementary students. I just feel it's really inappropriate for first graders to have so much of their instruction being required to be taught independently or basically put on a parent or daycare provider. I understand if we can't bring them in person for all the days, but I'd really like to see more synchronous instruction on their days when they're home. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Lisa. Stephanie Locke is next.
Hello?
Hi, Stephanie.
Sorry.
It's all
I
right.
just wanted to comment and say that my daughter has been in 4 days since the beginning, and I don't feel like she's learning as much because the Monday and Tuesday that she's in school, it's a repeat on Thursday and Friday. So I completely understand your position, but I would love to have her in 4 days learning different things because she's in with the 2 different cohorts and she's basically learning the same thing and missing out on what the kids are learning at home, the 3 days that they're home.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Not seeing any, Mrs. Stutzman.
Okay, thank you. I did want to, and I don't have data in front of me. So if anybody on the call has it in order to provide it and not say something wrong, which I don't want to do. I know there was a comment about days in person. And I also believe that the data around that is around having days in person and not being fully virtual, not how many days. And we definitely obviously are investing in personal days and we are looking for solutions. I just do need to say that out loud because I do appreciate all that you guys have done and this board. We're going back and forth on this constantly. And I know you all have done a ton of work to try to figure out solutions. We are frustrated because we want this all to be better and we want our kids to be getting the best education they can. So we are sharing those frustrations and we are looking for creative solutions. It's not to imply that you all are also not looking for creative solutions. And we as a team are working on solutions. So I do want to say that to just correct the comment that we need to do better and look for solutions. I think it's clear we are looking for solutions. There's just not that perfect scenario out there. No matter what route you take, there are pros and cons, there are risks and benefits, and we are, I think, trying to figure out the best we can with what we're dealing with. But now I'll shut up and let someone who knows what they're talking about share if the correction on that data that I was referring to, if you have it. And if not, I'm good.
All right, we'll have to get it.
No, that's fine. I just thought, I know that we've had that comment before and someone corrected it, but I just don't know it off the top of my head around the in-person days. Okay, anything else before we adjourn? All right, well, thank you everybody for your time on this and we'll adjourn the meeting.
Good night.
Good night.